Hoje a gente vai conversar com o Michael Urie, que está apresentando uma peça chamada Buyer and Cellar. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview.
You're
We're
welcome.
so excited
Thank
to
you.
talk to you.
Welcome to our stage.
Thank you. It's a wonderful stage. It's a wonderful play.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful stage. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like the play. I always, whenever I come in through, because usually I come in from over there and I'm on the stage, but anytime I come in from the back of the theater and see the stage, I'm always,
You realize how
it's just
beautiful
so,
it is.
it's such a very pretty, it's a very pretty set, and a very pretty place to do a play.
Well, now let's explain to the audience a little bit what the play is about, because there is a reason why this place is so beautiful and so white.
Right. Okay. So the play is about the fictional guy who works in the real mall at Barbara Streisand's house. So it's true that she does have a mall in her basement. Not a mall that other people shop at, more like a street of shops where she keeps her antique collections. And as far as we know, there is no one who works down there but Jonathan Tollins came up with this very funny idea that someone does. And
It would be an exciting job, though.
it would be an exciting job, I think. I agree with you. So this white room that we're in now, our set, is sort of is meant to sort of be the imaginary shops. I mean, we don't have any stuff in here, and it's really up to the imagination, but it sort of makes you feel like you're in a sort of lovely little shop that might be in Barbara Streisand's basement.
After decades of fame and fortune and unbridled acquisition, Barbara has a lot of stuff. Who doesn't? But Barbara didn't want some run-of-the-mill basement to keep it all in. No, Barbara doesn't like run-of-the-mill anything, although she does in fact run a mill. Page 44. Barbara wanted something special. Let us quote the relevant passage. I had another idea for this space. Why not do a street of shops like I had seen at Winterthur? John had to look it up too. Winterthur is some decorative arts museum in Delaware. We're supposed to know that. In one section of the museum, they recreated all these little stores. A china shop, a country store, just the way they would have looked in the early 1800s. And then they used them to display various collections. Wouldn't it be fun to do something similar? Wouldn't it? So that's what she did. She built a shopping mall in her basement. Remember, this is the part that's real.
Is this your first one-man show? And you play a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And they are so different. How did you actually prepare for that? How was
It was
how did
very
you
hard.
overcome the challenges?
It was very hard to figure out how to play. I think it's 6 or 7 different characters who talk to each other. It's not just one character and then later another character. It's characters who are in dialogue with one another. And that was the hardest part, going back and forth. Well, I don't know what the hardest part was. The hardest part might be the solitude of being alone all the time. But there was a lot of trial and error. I would try something and fail at it. And in rehearsal, I spent a lot of time screwing up, a lot of time having to ask what the lines are. I would like just forget my line and have to ask for it a lot.
Right, because you don't have the other actor to throw you the cue.
Right. I'm the only one there, so I have to throw my own cue. So it was tricky. It was a very hard project to like prepare and learn, and then figuring out how to be the different characters. You know, like there's a lot I could look at Barbara Streisand, and there's a moment where I played James Brolin. And there's another one. There's a lot out there. I knew that Alex, the main character, would need to be the closest to me because I had to be him the most, and I have to interact with the audience a lot. I mean, I not interact, but I talk to the audience a lot. So I knew that would.
Mainly the context is that Alex is telling the story of his work with Barbara Streisand.
That's right. So I knew it would be the easiest if he was most like me. But then his boyfriend is also in the play. And so there's another man that's about the same age as Alex, and that was the trickiest one, trying to figure out how to play 2 guys that are a couple.
And they are very different one from
That
the
are
other.
different from one another, yes, and have to talk to each other, but for all intents and purposes are physically and, you know, they're basically the same kind of a guy, the same type of guy. So that was the hardest one for me, trying to figure out how to be, and also trying to figure out the right quality of Barbara Streisand, because the character of Barbara that John has written isn't really like the Barbara we know from interviews or from concerts. He's an imagined Barbara. She's an imagined Barbara that John sort of came up with, and also I think probably pretty accurate. And my sense from her, and I've never met her.
Oh, I was going to ask that.
No, I've not met her. I've watched many interviews and probably all of the films, and my sense is that she gives her truest self in films when she's acting. And that ended up being the most helpful for me to try and figure out. But then it was also like, do we want to be early Barbara or late Barbara? And this takes place in theory in like 2010 or 11. And so this was like the recent Barbara. So the recent films that she's been in were the most helpful.
So actually, that was my question. Were you a fan of Barbara? Like, how familiar were you with her before taking on this project?
I would say I was a fan, and I was appreciative of Barbara, but not a mega fan.
Yeah.
Certainly not. I certainly didn't know everything. I had not seen all the movies or all the interviews, but I was aware of her. I liked her. And who doesn't? It's Barbara. And I had seen enough to know, upon reading it the first time, why it was funny, and that it would work. I knew. I was like, okay, there's something really good here. As I started working on it, I became a super fan. Ultimately, I now am. I definitely understand. I get it. I know why people love her, and I too love her.
So very similar to your character.
Yes, yeah. In a way, I'm a lot like Alex. That I started off being intrigued and of course knowing who she is, but by the end of the time, I can understand why one would become obsessed with her.
Well, okay, so my question, I wanted to ask you if Barbara came to see the show, or if she's aware of the show.
She is aware of the show.
She is?
She has not been to the show. People close to her have been, and I think they report back favorably.
Okay, that's good.
It'd be a strange thing, I think, for her to watch the show. Not only for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask for you, how would that be?
It would be very strange for me. I mean, if I knew, it would be strange or impossible. I would either poop my pants or somehow be brilliant. Probably
for the second
but probably the first one. But also the audience surrounding her, you know, like because it's a play. If it was just like a comedy act, or you know, I could gear it towards Barbara if everyone knew she was there. But because it's a play, I have to do the play the same pretty much every night. So it would be weird. And the audience, if the audience knew she were there,
well, everybody would just be staring at her.
yeah. And I don't think it would really be fair, because like it's sort of something we enjoy together. The audience and I enjoy together about her. And if
she's there, it's not going to be the same.
It's not quite the same. Yeah.
Well, that's something I'm very curious about, because the audience has probably got a very crazy Barbara audience coming to the show. What has been the reaction towards the show?
Well, people, I mean, we've been running this show for 8 months, more than 8 months now, so people keep coming. And we have, you know, lots of people every night, every performance. So I think people like it, and also people recommend it, and people are coming of all shapes and sizes, all walks of life. It's not just like Barbara fans, or even theater people, or gay people, or Jewish people, any of the things that you might immediately associate with Barbara. It's all kinds of people. It's theater goers, but it's also non-theater goers. I think that there are a lot of people who see maybe 1 or 2 plays a year, and this is one of them. And that's pretty exciting, and that is a real testament, I think, to John, our playwright, who has written something that's quite universal and that's quite accessible.
My stepfather used to tell me I couldn't have ice cream because I was too ugly.
Yeah, well, now you have your own frozen yogurt machine, so fuck him.
It's a terrible thing to be a little girl who never gets told she's pretty. It's something you never get over. I want do something for her, to show her I sympathized.